I grew up in a house where I never quite fit. My parents were successful. My father was a lawyer. My mother was a real estate agent. They had money and status and a reputation to maintain. My older brother was a doctor. My older sister was a lawyer. They followed the path my parents had laid out for them. They married well. They lived in nice houses. They drove nice cars. They were the children my parents wanted. I was different. I was not interested in law or medicine. I was interested in people, in communities, in helping those who could not help themselves. I studied economics because I wanted to understand poverty. I wanted to find solutions. I wanted to make a difference. My parents did not understand. They asked why I could not be more like my siblings. They asked when I would get a real job. They asked why I wasted my time on people who would never appreciate me. I did not answer. I just kept working. I got my PhD. I started a nonprofit. I raised money. I built programs. I helped thousands of people. My parents did not come to my graduation. They did not read my publications. They did not ask about my work. When I visited them, they asked me to help in the kitchen. They asked me to set the table. They asked me to clear the dishes. They introduced me to their friends as their helper, their assistant, the one who helps out around the house. I did not correct them. I did not want to embarrass them. I did not want to make a scene. I loved my parents. I wanted their approval. I thought if I was patient enough, they would eventually see me. They would eventually be proud. They never were. The Thanksgiving invitation came 6 weeks before the holiday. My mother called. She said they were hosting a large dinner, important guests, business associates, old friends. She needed my help. She asked if I could come early to prepare the food and stay late to clean up. She did not ask if I wanted to come as a guest. She asked if I could come as help. Bien, I said yes. I always said yes. I arrived at my parents' house at 6 in the morning. The turkey was already in the oven. My mother handed me a list. Peel the potatoes. Chop the vegetables. Set the table. Arrange the flowers. Polish the silver. The list went on. I worked for hours. My hands were raw from chopping. My back ached from standing. My feet hurt from running between the kitchen and the dining room. My siblings arrived at noon. They did not offer to help. They sat in the living room, drinking wine and laughing at old stories. My parents joined them. I stayed in the kitchen. At 3, the guests arrived. I heard the doorbell. I heard my mother's voice. I heard the murmur of conversation. I peeked through the kitchen door. The living room was full of people in beautiful clothes. Women in silk dresses. Men in tailored suits. Jewelry sparkling. Laughter echoing. I looked down at my own outfit, a black dress, plain, simple. The kind of dress a server would wear. My mother had told me to dress professionally. I should have known what she meant. At 4, dinner was served. My mother called me into the dining room. She wanted me to stand by the sideboard, to serve the soup, to refill the wine glasses, to be invisible. I stood by the sideboard. I held the soup ladle. I smiled at the guests. I did not sit at the table. There was no place for me. There was never a place for me. My mother introduced me to her friends. She said, "This is our helper. She helps us around the house. She is wonderful, so helpful." We could not manage without her. The guests nodded. They smiled. They did not ask my name. They did not ask what I did. They looked through me like I was furniture, like I was part of the service, like I did not matter. I served the soup. I refilled the wine glasses. I cleared the plates. I was invisible. I was used to it. Then one guest stood up. Her name was Dr. Patricia Holloway. She was in her 60s, gray hair, kind eyes, an expensive suit that she wore like armor. I had never seen her before. I did not know who she was. She stood up from her chair. She looked at my mother. She looked at me. She said, "Your helper has a PhD in economics from Columbia. She runs a nonprofit that just received a $10 million grant. She spoke at the United Nations last month. I know because I was there. I was the one who invited her." The room went silent. You could hear the ice melting in the water glasses. You could hear the fire crackling in the fireplace. You could hear my mother's sharp intake of breath. "Dr. Holloway continued. She said, "Elena is one of the most respected economists in the country. Her work on poverty alleviation has been cited in congressional hearings. Her nonprofit has lifted thousands of families out of poverty. She is not your helper. She is your daughter. And you should be ashamed of yourselves. My mother's face went pale. My father stopped chewing. His fork froze halfway to his mouth. My brother looked at his plate. My sister looked at the ceiling. The other guest looked anywhere but at my parents. I stood there in my black apron holding the soup ladle. I did not know what to say. I did not know what to do. I just stood there, frozen, embarrassed, exposed. Jute doctor. Holloway walked around the table. She took the ladle from my hand. She set it down on the sideboard. She took my arm. She said, "Come sit with me. You do not belong in the kitchen." Now she led me to the table. She pulled out a chair. She sat me down. She sat beside me. She poured me a glass of wine. The dinner continued. But everything had changed. The guests kept looking at me, whispering, wondering. My parents would not look at me. They stared at their plates. They did not speak. I did not speak either. I just sat there, in my black apron, at the table where I had never been invited. And I felt something I had never felt before. Not anger, not satisfaction, something else. Something like relief. Someone had finally seen me. After dinner, the guests left quickly. Excuses. Early mornings, long drives. They could not get out fast enough. They had witnessed something uncomfortable. Something that made them question the people they thought they knew. Then, when the last guest left, my mother turned to me. Her face was red. Her hands were shaking. She said, "How dare you?" I said, "How dare I what?" She said, "How dare you embarrass us like that? In front of our friends, in front of our colleagues." I said I did not say anything. I stood in the kitchen and served soup. You introduced me as the helper. I did not correct you. I never correct you. She said you should have told us about your work, about the grant, about the United Nations. We did not know. I said you never asked. You never asked about my PhD. You never asked about my nonprofit. You never asked about anything. You only asked me to clean your house and cook your food and serve your guests. My father spoke. He said you are being dramatic. I said I am being honest. For the first time in my life, I am being honest. My brother said you should have told us. Bendit, I said I tried. You did not listen. My sister said this is why we do not invite you to things. I said you do not invite me to things. You invite me to work. I am not a guest in this house. I have never been a guest. I am staff, and I am done. Mummy heard the black apron. I took off the black apron. I folded it neatly. I set it on the kitchen counter. I walked to the front door. I put on my coat. I walked out. I did not look back. My mother called after me. She said, "Where are you going?" I did not answer. I drove home in silence. I did not cry. I was too tired to cry. Too empty. Too done. My parents did not call. My siblings did not text. The silence was loud. It was also peaceful. I realized how much energy I had spent trying to earn their approval. How much time. How much of myself. Bazin. I focused on my work. My nonprofit grew. We opened new programs. We helped more people. I was invited to speak at more conferences. I was featured in more magazines. My name appeared in places my parents would never see. They did not read those magazines. They did not attend those conferences. They did not care, Doctor. Holloway became a mentor, a friend, a kind of mother I had never had. She asked about my work. She celebrated my successes. She held me when I cried. She told me I was worthy of love and respect. She told me my parents were wrong. I believed her. Not at first. But over time, slowly, painfully, I started to believe that I mattered, that I was enough, that I did not need my parents' approval to be whole. Bammed, 6 months after Thanksgiving, my mother called. She said she wanted to apologize. She said she had been thinking about what happened. She said she was sorry for introducing me as the helper. She said she did not realize how much it hurt me. I said thank you for the apology. Linda, she asked if we could have dinner. Just the two of us. She wanted to catch up. She wanted to hear about my work. I said okay. We had dinner at a small restaurant near my apartment. She asked about my nonprofit. I told her. She listened. She asked questions. She seemed interested. She seemed proud. It was too little too late. But it was something. A start. A crack in the wall. We still have dinner sometimes. She still asks about my work. She still pretends to understand. It is not perfect, but it is better. And I have stopped waiting for her to be the mother I needed. I am my own mother now. I take care of myself. Kim. If you are going through something similar, here is my advice. Do not wait for your family to see you. They may never see you. They may never appreciate you. They may never be proud of you. See yourself. Appreciate yourself. Be proud of yourself. Build a life that does not depend on their approval. Find people who see you, who celebrate you, who love you for who you are. My parents introduced me as the maid at Thanksgiving. One guest knew my real title. That guest changed my life. Not because she rescued me, because she showed me that I was worth rescuing. I stopped being invisible. I started sitting at the table. I started speaking my truth. I started living my life, and I have never been happier. Nick. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more tales of family and identity and the courage to claim your place at the table. Click the bell for notifications, and remember, you are not who they say you are. You are who you choose to become.